Welcome to the YouTube Creators Hub podcast, where we help you conquer the internet one video at a time. We cover everything from how to start a YouTube channel to how to make a video go viral. And now, here's your host, the one and only Dusty Porter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 322 of the YouTube Creators Hub podcast, the show where I interview wonderful creators and talk with them about their journey as a creator on the platform that we all know and love. If you are looking to start, grow, or monetize your YouTube channel, wherever you may be on your YouTube path, this is the show for you. Every Friday, about 25 to 45 minutes of a wonderful back and forth between me and a wonderful YouTube creator, and I talk with them about kind of what makes them tick, the different strategies they use, and so much more. So if that sounds like something you'd love to be a part of, subscribe to the show. It's free wherever you listen to your podcast. We're brought to you by the fine folks over at TubeBuddy. Everyone always asks me, what is TubeBuddy? Who is TubeBuddy? Listen, I have a link in the show notes for a 30-day free trial. You can use it for 30 days for free. You can A/B test thumbnails. It helps you navigate YouTube quicker. It allows you to just do things way more efficiently as a creator, and I can't even begin to tell you about the AI features that we have coming down the pipeline in the next 6 months to a year. I'm telling you, TubeBuddy's set up for the future, and if you haven't tried them already, definitely use our link. It'll obviously help us out. And then we made a big change, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, where we changed the setting. If you go to patreon.com/DustyPorter, you can support us over there. You can get access to our creator Discord where you can talk YouTube shop all throughout the week. But if you support us at the executive producer tier or higher, you will get a shout out once a month on the show with your name or link or business name of choice. And man, you guys have responded. Thank you guys so much. So right now we have Randy Engler, Nathan Miller, Matt Leidy, Into the Brick of It, Don, Corbin White, Koramic, Chase Shelby, Anthony Pizzuto, James Adams, David Stojic, William Foley, Stephen Reich, and Joshua Griffin. Wow, all of those are our executive producers and above. Guys, thank you so much for supporting the show. It allows me to dive and devote as much time as is needed to create and produce a wonderful interview-based show, which, by the way, does take more time than folks do realize. And so I really appreciate you guys for stepping up to the plate. And you can find that link to our Patreon down below as well. If you think that you or someone you know would be a great fit for the podcast, please take 3 to 5 minutes of your time and click on our Google form to submit all of your links and information so me and my team can reach out to you to possibly be a future guest here on the podcast. It's one of the ways that I found some of my best guests here on the podcast is through that form. So it doesn't mean you're automatically going to be on the show, but it does allow me to kind of sift through some of those and see if you would be a good person to chat with here on the podcast. All right, so with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into this week's conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's conversation on the YouTube Creators Hub podcast. Super excited today to be joined by Drew Wilson, who is the community manager and YouTube creator for Kittl. Kittl, which is a browser-based design tool where you can make stunning designs easier and faster. Drew manages a private Facebook design community of over 20,000 members, as well as manages the Discord and Instagram page for Kittl. On YouTube, he teaches both beginner and experienced designers how to use Kittl to improve their workflow and creative projects by sharing tutorials, branding strategies, and interviewing other designers around the world. And I did ask him before he came on today, he is the sole person behind their YouTube channel, so everything from thumbnails to content creation, he does it all. So I can't wait to chat with him today. Drew, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you? I'm so excited to be here. I've been listening to you for a while, and I'm just above ecstatic to be here. So thank you so much for asking.
So I think one of the things that stood out to me, obviously, is that Kittl is a graphics and design company, and you guys are trying to make things easy. And that's what I like to do on my YouTube channel, and that when I started over a decade ago, the whole premise was just do a tutorial on anything technology and just make it simple, because there's so much jargon out there, and sometimes it can get convoluted and it can get very messy. But I want you to tell me the origin story of the Kittl brand on YouTube and kind of the content creation process from start to beginning. So if you would, just kind of tell us a story and what you do.
Absolutely. I did just want to shout out our other designers. I actually don't make all of the thumbnails. Not that it's a big deal or anything, but I definitely want to give credit to the rest of our design team because they make amazing thumbnails. That's actually one of my, I'm not as strong on that, but they do amazing. So how we got started was Heritage Typeco is a font foundry based in Berlin, Germany. That's where we're based. And we were making fonts. I say we, I wasn't there, but just a couple years ago, I was joined on. But we have amazing font designers and typography enthusiasts that were making beautiful vintage typography fonts, templates for like Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop and things like that. And that's how we really got started online, just selling fonts and downloadable templates and things like that. But as we were doing that, we were getting lots of people, through customer support and chat and email and what have you, really struggling, I think, to use some of our assets, not necessarily the fonts, but the more intense things like templates and other, downloadable textures and Photoshop files. They were asking for help. They couldn't figure out how to use it. And these were definitely beginners. They wanted these really nice, beautiful, elegant things, but they were having trouble using them. And I totally get it because you can kind of get lost watching hours of tutorials. And so we thought that there was a real opportunity for us to make something that would package all of our amazing assets into one easy to use platform. And that's where Kittl came in. It was actually first called Heritage Designer, but we've since rebranded a while ago to Kittl. To make it not so necessarily vintage aesthetic, but we want to use all design styles. And so that's really how we've come about to where we are now. And the YouTube channel is obviously just by proxy happening so that we can have a platform to teach how to use Kittl. And that way we're not trying to explain things via customer support, which is kind of what we did in the early days. And that's where I came in. And they found me, and I was able to come on and really teach how to use this interface, which does work in the browser. And it's just so easy to use. And I just have a ton of fun showing off how to make a variety of different things, whether it's logos or labels or corporate things or anything like that.
All right. So I now want to ask you, your title for the company is Community Manager. With the YouTube channel, when you guys sit down for meetings at the company, what are your main goals as far as a business? Like, kind of give us a peek behind the door as far as like, what are you trying to accomplish with the videos and the content that you create and put out there?
Absolutely. It's really twofold. And, the Kittl YouTube plays a major part in, of course, customer acquisition. That's really top of funnel. It's where we get people that maybe don't even know what Kittl is yet, and they're searching for a specific tutorial or how to do something, and they find it, and they're like, wow, this is amazing. I have to try it. In our meetings and things like that, it is twofold. We want to build this community, and we want to just teach people how to make cool stuff. And obviously on the other side, we want to be a well-functioning oiled machine as a company, and we want users, and we want them to use Kittl obviously for all of their projects and things like that. So I'm always thinking about the more community side. I'm typically thinking more about the engagement side of things. I'm trying to get people into the Discord. I'm trying to get people to come and do our challenges, which we now host in Kittl itself. We actually have a challenge feature. We were doing it in things like Discord and Facebook groups and stuff. So now we can actually have people participate and win amazing prizes via challenges. I'm typically more on that side of the I want the engagement, I want the community, and we have other colleagues that are really figuring out what would be the best videos to make, things like titles and other performance things like that would really captivate a user to want to try Kittl in the first place. So that's kind of our goals is twofold. We definitely want to bring people to Kittl. We want them to try it. We want them to share it with other designers or friends and things like that. But then we also want people to keep coming back. We want them to keep watching videos. And I really want them to join, things like the Discord where they can share with other designers and really get their own, start commenting on each other's work and things like that.
So really for you guys, YouTube and content creation is just a community building type thing for you guys.
Yeah, it's twofold. It's we definitely want to build that community, but it is vitally important both with the collaborations we do and with our own main YouTube channel for customer retention and attribution.
Right. And you're providing resources for current customers and possible what I call business cards for new customers.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's a great way to put it.
And so for businesses listening to this, YouTube and content creation is not only a form of client acquisition, but it is also a form of, like you said, retention and continuing education for those people who are using your service or your business to keep them coming back again and again. I want to ask you, as the person behind a lot of the stuff on the YouTube channel, what has been a couple of things that you've learned along the way since starting that, you look back at you now and you're like, man, I wish I would have known that sooner?
Yes, absolutely. I think what I wish I would have learned more was to take a little bit more time in researching what users are looking for in terms of design trends. And the reason I say that, I know, we can get on a whole thing about trends and they obviously ebb and flow. But I was just kind of starting out like, let's just go basics. Let's do, how to make a logo, in Kittl, how to make a, t-shirt design, in Kittl. But if I had been just a little bit more intuitive with things like vidIQ and with going and just checking out other YouTubers' channels and things like that, I could have probably, boosted growth, maybe gotten a couple more people, a couple more customers to Kittl, a couple more, people asking questions on how to do that a little bit. So that's something that I just mentioned that to say that I've really grown in that, learning how to use, the right proper tools, learning how to research, not necessarily just a keyword that's going to do super great, but it's not just about that. It's like, what are the people struggling with? What are beginner designers struggling with, and how can I use that in tandem? Where can Kittl come in and basically help them, if that makes sense?
And we talked about off air, because of your relationship with the company and everything, we can't talk about exact numbers as far as financials go, but we will talk about briefly the ad revenue and kind of, you guys are, ever approaching that 10,000 subscriber mark. But I do, before we get into the monetary side of things, I do want to talk about the illusion of numbers. And what I mean by that is that you told me off air, that you guys are doing really well with customers and you're growing, which is great. But, you don't have to have 100,000 YouTube subscribers to have a successful channel. And can you talk on that and maybe expound upon that a little more? Because I do believe that it's important for folks to understand that, yes, you guys at Kittl are doing great, but you don't need to have a million subscriber channel to do so.
Absolutely. I think that's totally true. And that was kind of a fear in our minds beginning was, hey, let's all, I always try to create the realistic expectations, not necessarily under deliver or anything, but I'm like, hey, YouTube is a marathon. It's not a sprint, which I think it definitely is.
Yes.
You definitely have to keep at it. But we saw that, in not a lot of time. Yes, necessarily we don't have hundreds of thousands subscribers on the YouTube channel, but some of these videos have lots of views, 15,000, 20,000, some of 30,000 views. And those people, that may just be not necessarily wanting to subscribe to us, but we've fulfilled their need for whatever they were looking for, right? They found us and they were like, okay, sweet. Kittl's great, probably not even going to watch any videos anymore, but the design tool is what I needed. And so you don't have to necessarily get to that 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 subscriber rate for you to start seeing some really great, profitable, acquisition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could not agree more with that. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about that. Because I get a lot of folks who listen to the podcast who are like, well, I'm not a vlogger. I don't want to have a gaming channel. I run a business. I'm a doctor. I'm a dentist. I own a farm or whatever it may be. But I'd like to grow my brand, sell my product or service or software or whatever it may be. And to hear you talk, Drew, I think that's going to really help them kind of become knowledgeable about kind of where they can grow and start moving things in the business. I know we can't talk about exact things with financials, but can you just talk about how you are making money from the content? So don't necessarily talk about how much you're making, but how you're making money.
Absolutely, yeah. So Kittl is a subscription-based platform. It's a design tool. Obviously, we've mentioned it works right in your browser. You have a sign-in. We have our own cloud services, things like that. All your documents, they're all in one place. It is a subscription-based platform. So we have a free plan, of course, like many other models. And then we have we're working on more, but we have two other main staple, I guess you could call them flagship subscriptions, where right now we just call them Pro and Expert. And of course you can go month to month with those for $15 a month. You could pay yearly to get that one down to $10 a month. And then the Expert one is upwards of $30 a month. And obviously at all of those tiers, you unlock different things. So with the YouTube, we have people coming, they're obviously searching for a specific thing, whether it is how to make text effects for whatever, or if it's maybe how to make a Y2K logo, or maybe if it's just like how to improve on t-shirt designs or something like that. So they're finding us that way. And then we're really just wanting them to give Kittl a try. And then right now we're in beta still at the time of this podcast, and we also have all of the subscriptions on sale. So it's really a great time for them to try it out. And they can, of course, cancel it at any time, which is another big staple of us. At any time you don't like it, boom, you can just stop. No worries. You can go back down to a free plan. So that's really how we're making money as a business from YouTube. Obviously, if you're kind of looking at the YouTube at face value, you're like, it's a good looking channel. It's not like viral. It's not crazy. You don't have like 150,000 plus some subs, but it's actually doing what it needs to do right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's. I've always said it this way. My father-in-law is so good with his hands. He can build anything. He can fix things. So whenever I have a problem, I call him and he and I do it together, or he does it for me because he's so much better than I am. But I'm really good at technology. I can pretty well figure most things out when it comes to technology or anything on the technical side of things. It's knowing how to use the tools in your toolbox. It's not always having the biggest toolbox. And I think that as a creator, that if you understand that premise, that you're going to be able to be successful, whether it be YouTube or TikTok or streaming on Twitch or whatever it may be, you're going to have success. And so I love to hear you talking about that. And you're obviously making, AdSense revenue to a certain extent as well. I want you to talk about the hardest thing for you doing the YouTube side of things. Like what are the problems that you've kind of encountered on the creator side of things, and how have you kind of countered those?
Yeah, I think this is kind of an interesting part to talk about how I even came to being, on the Kittl YouTube channel. And I think that the struggle, if I could go ahead and say the struggle at face value, is figuring out / learning how to have a YouTube channel as a company, which you've kind of already mentioned is, it's a little bit different than having like a personalized YouTube channel. It's just kind of you are the personality, you are the brand. But, that's kind of the struggle is I want to be that as well, but we also need to make sure that we're functioning as a business. And I think that that's like both can be strength and weakness. My strength was I just started a YouTube channel myself. I was telling you before the call, I just have a small one. I still post every once in a while, and I just decided to do a review on the fonts at Heritage Type, which I mentioned, how we became Kittl, and they found me via YouTube. I started doing, a couple of videos for them, maybe once, twice a month, and then boom, here we are. Mm-hmm. And so they really liked that personality, I guess, that I bring to the videos, kind of sharing, maybe you can have some comedic relief, maybe you can share the problem in a real, lifelike way. And so I would say that the struggle is making sure that I'm able to provide enough of that in a video, in a Kittl video, so that you see me, you see that I'm a real person. There's clearly some sort of struggle that's happened in this video where we need to use Kittl to solve it. But at the same time, where is that enough, and where is it that like, okay, I need to share the product, I need to show what it does. It's I don't know if I'm being super clear on that, but it's essentially like I want to make sure that my personality is coming through, but I don't want that to necessarily, paint Kittl in one size fits all, like it's just me. I have to be the the ideal user, because it's all kinds of users, all from all age ranges. We've done crazy extensive, I can't remember what they're not called prototypes, but basically like who are our ideal users, and it's everyone. Like we want everyone that's needing to design something to come find Kittl, give it a try. And so I want to make sure that I'm being myself, in the video, but also, it's Kittl's YouTube channel. It's not Drew's YouTube channel. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense, and I appreciate you sharing that. I think that one of the things that so many folks reach out to me about when it comes to the podcast and YouTube is just whether or not they should start a channel, whether or not they could be a creator. You know, and I just recorded a piece for my other podcast this week. It's releasing tomorrow morning about my wife and I are going through a process right now where she's thinking about going off on her own and doing some stuff as an entrepreneur, and she's never done that before. And a lot of our conversations stem from her saying this statement. She says, well, there's somebody out there already doing that, or that's already been done.
Yes.
And I think that as creators, if we have that mindset, we will be crippled by that effect of, well, somebody's already done it. It's already been done before, Yeah. There are design companies out there like Kittl. There are font companies out there, a lot of good ones doing really good things, but you're going to have your own spice to it. You're going to have your own things that you do. So can you expound upon that a little bit as far as, you had your own personal channel, now moving over and managing the Kittl channel. What motivates you, and kind of what encouragement do you have there?
Absolutely. And I think that's it's kind of funny. I mentioned I've been listening to you for a while. I love it, whether I'm in the car or I'm working out or something like that. I'm always trying to figure out what other people are doing in the YouTube space. And like a lot of your previous guests, 2020 came about, and I had found this channel called Think Media on YouTube, where Sean Cannell is a fantastic, teacher in the YouTube space. And I don't know what happened. Something clicked. I was like, I'm just going to do this. And I had that crippling fear. The imposter syndrome was absolutely terrifying, because I've been a graphic designer and a UI designer for a while. I was actually working at a different full-time company before Kittl. And I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do one video a week. I'm going to share what I like, design books that I like. I'm just going to try it, because I think not to like keep mentioning Sean, but Sean Cannell has this like energy that's very it's going to rub off on you. You're going to get motivated and psyched. Yes. So that's kind of where it came from. That's where I started with it, and that translated into me finding different fonts, because as a designer, you always need fonts. So you can always have another font. Don't let anybody else tell you different. So that's where I just kind of housed out for a little bit, reviewing fonts, and that's how I've gotten to where we are now. So I mean, like you said about adding your own flavor, your own spice, someone's going to listen to you maybe a little bit better, whether it's your pace, whether it's the comedic relief, whether it's the jump cuts, whatever it is. Like, yes, titles are very important, thumbnails are extremely important, but when somebody finds you and you kind of have that audience that comes to you for you and for the flavor you put on it, then it's okay. It's actually not a bad thing that there's other design companies, that there are other design channels, whatever, because somebody's always trying to learn something in a different way, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, and that's exactly kind of the point that I was making. You did even a better job than I did explaining that, so I appreciate you doing that. What are some tools of the trade that you use on the back end of creating all this content, other than Kittl, obviously? What are whether it be physical tools like hardware or software, like what helps you kind of get the job done?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say first, mainly where I think most of the company uses Macs. I definitely use Apple to basically do everything, because we're editing on Final Cut, which works really, really well with Mac. Of course, that's kind of the OS that they like. And I use Sony cameras, so I don't know I can't speak. I'm not like a camera guru, but it seems to like Sony 4K files really nicely. So Final Cut I really love. I'm always looking up tutorials on how to do cooler things with Final Cut. And I would say that's really it. I use kind of a basic microphone, just the Sony camera. Everything else is really screen recording that you see, or some kind of graphic element. We use Fiverr to find, video editors and other things for specific projects, but it's pretty low key. I mean, Kittl is the main focal point. You could, if you're just starting out as a business, you really don't have to have a fancy camera. If you have an iPhone, you could just replace my camera with your iPhone and do everything else almost the same way.
I love that. I use Macs, and I just recently got a PC to do some other stuff in the business, and it's like learning a whole new language.
Yeah.
But I like both. So I really appreciate you joining me today. I want to ask you in closing, what are some things as far as you, the creator, like as a person, that you're not so good at, and then what are some things that you your strengths, and talk about kind of how those have helped you either get in your way or help you succeed as a creator.
Yes. So I'll start with weaknesses. I actually take a pretty long time to design stuff. I would say that I'm not an awful designer by any means, but it does take me quite a while. And I already mentioned, like in the earlier segment, thumbnails are not my forte because I'm just going overboard. I'm trying to put so much in it. And that's why it can take me a long while to get to a refined design, whether it be for a tutorial or for something just for my own personal use. But with the designers that are at Kittl that have been working in this space for just years and years and years, they studied this was their life. They're able to come alongside me, which is where we kind of get into the strength, where they say, let's do this, let's make this easier, here's how we can do this, things like that. Another strength that I would say is kind of what I already mentioned about personality. I think I do have a good pace in terms of speaking. I think I'm able to assert the point relatively simply and easily and quickly, which I think is very important on YouTube, because if you're not catching that attention, they're clicking out, your bounce rate's pretty rough. They're not necessarily going to stick around. So I would say that's probably a strength. I love being a personable person, which that's kind of funny to say, but I've been introverted most of my life, and honestly, starting YouTube has just made me destroy that and try more to be, an extrovert and want to get the engagement with people. So I would say that that's probably a strong suit, is just being who you are and your personality, and not being afraid. If someone's going to click on your video, they're giving you permission to talk to them. I kind of think about it like that. And so I just like being that, my personable self. So I think that would probably be a strength.
Yeah, I'm the same way as you. I think that sometimes your personality and the way that you say and do things on camera definitely has an impact. So,
right.
Well, I really appreciate it, Drew, and my dog is letting me know it's time to end the podcast. So I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next week.
You've been listening to the YouTube Creators Podcast. We want to thank you and invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as support us on Patreon for great perks, such as having your YouTube channel featured on the show and a link on our website. Until next time, keep uploading those videos.